and welcome back to the 6 Degrees podcast for episode 5. My name is Zachary Lefebvre, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining me on my podcast journey as I host a variety of musicians, small business owners, digital artists, creatives, and regular folk that all have inspiring journeys. I'm really enjoying the process of figuring out the podcast format and learning more about the creative people in my circle. Every episode, I'm trying to level up, and I really appreciate the support, and I hope you enjoy the conversations I have with each guest. In my 6 degrees, I know there are tons of first-class humans, and I figured it would be a great way to tap into the network, hear stories from all these talented individuals, and talk about the big plays they're making. The main goal of the podcast is to connect people, whether it be working together or just connecting with sentiments of the pod. I aim to fill these segments with fun and lighthearted conversations while diving deeper into our guests' minds. This week on the 6 Degrees Creative podcast, we have Charles Daleiden. Charles establishes himself in the music scene wherever he is, as an event producer, artist manager, and finance-savvy businessman. Welcome to the show, Charles, and thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Hey, Zach. Thanks for having me. It's so nice to be here. I'm a huge fan of your podcast. It's exciting to contribute, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Very excited to have you on. I know that we have a fun, rich history going back to San Diego with some of your earlier projects and have been, really stoked to collaborate on many things since then. In fact, I got to say, a lot of this podcast starting has to do with you. So it's really nice to have you on the show finally. And I know we have a lot to talk about. So we'll get started with this episode, but I can foresee us having a lot more to talk about in future episodes as well.
So much to talk about. I've been very busy. I'm excited to share with all of you.
Yeah, so kind of just wanted to take it back to like where we first crossed paths. I do this kind of almost every podcast just to kind of, it seems like a great way to intro the people that I'm speaking with and give people a little bit of a insight into our journey as friends and creatives. And it's just a great starting off point. So I'm pretty sure it was at one of the live stream recordings that you're doing at your place in San Diego when you lived here. I believe you did Kaipora there and Red Giant Project. Which were both fantastic and inspired me to even start my own live stream, as COVID was continuing on for however long it did, put us in that little, that funky year and a half or two. But I just kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit more and just kind of, what was your involvement in the music scene, like as a whole or in San Diego at that point in time, and how did that project come to fruition?
Yeah, I guess before I came to San Diego, I had always, I wrote for contributed to a music blog in college. So I've got like playlists of every week for like 5 years, right, of just songs I downloaded. Always loved music. I've been to more Fish and Sound Tribe shows than I care to admit. Um, but really during the pandemic, like you nailed it, I renovated my backyard into like a dynamic performance art studio, right, and I dubbed that Space Traveler Studios. It included like 10 events, right, in collaboration with Same, like you mentioned. But really the thing that stands out as a starting point in California was my time spent with the SoCal jam band Higgs, right? So they were like the first concert I went to in San Diego. Quickly made friends with the drummer Garrett Morris. And after a few shows and buying a few t-shirts and stuff, I noticed him just like writing it down on a piece of paper, which is good. It's a step. And I asked him, like, where does that piece of paper go right after the show? He goes, I don't know, in the box, right? And oh my goodness, right? So kind of, after rolling my eyes at that for a show or two, I finally was like, dude, I can't watch him just put this sheet in the box anymore. I go, well, Garrett, you're going to give me the sheet now, right? So he'd give me the sheet after every show. As I went home and did what I do with them, right? And I made a merchandise sales tracker. And really started helping the back end of the Higgs by doing merchandise assortment planning and sales tracking. So, and I even took their pen and paper approach and created like a merchandise SKU inventory, and we created a POS, really, which just like leveled up merchandise operations, right? Now you got 3 tablets. You can also take merchandise on the road. You don't have to just going digital and having a POS through Square on any device, made, more opportunities to sell, right? So if the store's always open, you can always sell. So it was really cool just to kind of, have the opportunity to think the way that I think about life, highly analytical, financy, and really help my friends who, are starting a band, and we know how important merchandise is to a band. And really, that was the first time it really clicked where, hey, you can be authentically yourself and still contribute to this community. Because for the longest time, like, a decade of Fish shows, I always just was like kind of shame. It showed like shamed and like I was like, man, I'm just a financial analyst. I don't belong here. Like these guys are so cool. Like I'm such a Chad type of thing. And really, being accepted and seen by Garrett was really the aha moment, if you will, of contributing to the music scene, like going from custody to manager or like whatever you want to call, right? No longer consumer. Now I'm starting to organize shit. So the Higgs actually even took me on tour with them, right, to sell their merchandise. And it was like a almost famous trip where that kid goes on the tour van, and like my eyes were open to, like, I was like, first of all, I love road trips. Second of all, these guys are cool as shit. And like we're going to parties every day. Are you kidding me? Like, sign me up. And I was still working my job, right? So I had my laptop with me and I was doing some stuff here and there, right? Not working well, but working. And really, you know, I think our paths crossed at the first inaugural Chuck Fest. Actually, the Higgs actually headlined, and they were on a heater of a tour. Like they were killing it going into like the end of winter 2020. They were on fire. I remember that you could go look up the Higgs Salt Lake City. Zach Schwartz was on tour with them, and he lit that show, and it's still like one of my favorite shows. And that was March 6th or something like that. So the next week, everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're seeing my favorite Higgs show play out. Right. I'm like, wait, there's no more of those? Holy shit. Right. And I think like everyone kind of felt that way in some way or the other. Right. And, you know, I too, I wasn't an artist. I didn't miss performing, but I did miss consuming live music.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And missing the shows, missing the festivals, missing the community that comes with that. Right. And so I wanted to throw a concert in my backyard. I wanted to put artists or get money in my artist friends' pockets because, like, it's hard out there when you're trying to do that. You have no opportunities to generate revenue. And it also is like more of just like keep the chemistry alive because, everyone kind of handled the pandemic differently, right? And if you're in a 4-piece cohesive unit and all 4 of you handle the pandemic to 4 corners of the wind, there's some real tension that can build on a group, right? Mm-hmm. And that's like a new thing for a lot of these bands to deal with. Is like the cohesion and maintaining chemistry through like an event, a global catastrophe like a pandemic, right? And I saw that play out through my friends, and they were like, tensions were rising and people were getting upset. They weren't trying to do more shows and renegade. And, so I really, a lot of different things. Right. And you were really one of the first guests to arrive at that Higgs show. And my dumb ass drank out of the wrong water bottle and totally puddled myself on my first concert. Right. I couldn't even figure out how to hook up a GoPro. And you came and helped me hook up a GoPro. And I looked up at you and go, wow, you have such kind eyes. Thank you for helping me. And I remember that like to this day, right? And so I thank you for helping me set up that GoPro because the stream game is killing it these days, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so, it hasn't really gone anywhere, which is pretty cool. It's funny that it took like a pandemic to hit and for people to get creative in that fashion. I'm glad that they did, that we did, because as you said, like I couldn't imagine how hard not having live music was going to hit me, but it didn't take long for when the world stopped and shut down for me to be like, okay, well, now it's time to manifest other ways to bring music to life. And yeah, it was just really, really, really cool to be a part of. Everything seemed like it was really like from the ground up because, obviously all the bigger companies and stuff couldn't really do too much, but within the smaller friend circles and stuff and locally, it really, pushed other creatives to step out of their comfort zone, which is really great learning experience and led to a lot of really cool relationships and stuff.
It was very cool. Shout out to Colin and Sophia for kind of putting on Sorry and the rest of the Sorry Not Sorry fam for putting that on, and really, so grateful to be in attendance because like I again, like puddled myself on the fucking side of a mountain and realized, holy shit, I could probably do this. Right. So amazing to see the people coming together. I truly look back at the summer of 2020 in San Diego, and man, it was like the closest thing that the millennials have to the summer of love. If anyone has any better ideas, but that felt straight like 1969. Like the world is burning, but you've got, a bunch of people just unrelentlessly getting it and getting after it and trying to bring, you know, um, music and art to the community. So like it's a cool trip, and I'm happy that I was part of it.
Yeah, what a time, you know. It was really kind of challenging, you know, to walk that fine line of like following your heart and investing in the experiences that you want to experience and not letting your life sit on the sidelines too much because of this global catastrophe, this pandemic, but trying to navigate it responsibly. And then at some point, it's just like, well, shit, we just need to do it as responsibly as we can. But yeah, a lot of good stuff came from that. And honestly, I think it's really great and kind of tails into one of the questions that I wanted to dive in maybe a little later, but it just seems more proper now. Like you are so financially savvy, and I can see how like there, you know, when there's a little bit misalignment, you know, you're like, what am I? I'm just a business guy or like finance guy. But the thing is like a lot of bands need that direction, and I think that you are such a pillar in that form for groups and bands like that. So, how have you been able to kind of like utilize your business background, and what would you say are like some of the biggest pros coming from a background like that while operating in like the music industry?
I wouldn't say I'm operating in the music industry yet. I think I'm a kind of a poser at this point, but
Not even.
um,
No matter how big nor small, you know, still making an impact. I mean,
sure,
we met in San
without a
Diego.
doubt,
Yeah,
we're
without a
we're
doubt,
moving
you know, you
mountains out here.
can't sell yourself short, you know, of all the great things you've done. But like I said, you know, you hit the ground running once you got to San Diego, established yourself here, and then once you moved back to Milwaukee, like reestablished yourself there, kept your projects going, like so yeah,
Yeah,
it's been really
and
great to see you just really stick with everything.
and it's really not just like finance, but my really whole professional career of experiences, right? Like 17 years ago, I graduated college, or even got my first finance internship, right? And over the course of like those 17 years, I was doing data science, analytics, financial planning, and corporate FP&A. Like I had the opportunity to take a company public, which was really cool, right? And it's all been pivotal, right? As soon as you like own, you know, be your authentic self instead of like fighting it and be like, no, I'm actually like a promoter. I'm not a financial analyst. Let me tell you,
Mhm.
Zach, I'm not a promoter, right? I'm a financial analyst. And really, my professional career has not only helped me from like the technical perspective, like the spreadsheet stuff and data visualization and like knowing that code, but a confidence perspective, right? Um, so let's just take the Higgs merchandise model example. They took the piece of paper and turned it into this, right? When I was 19, I interned at Harley Davidson, right, in the general merchandise division, actually. And for those who know Harley Davidson, the motorcycles are one thing, right, but the whole Harley culture is really like the staple, right? It's the shirts, it's the leather jackets, it's the saddlebags, right? So general merchandise was the place to be. Like all the cool people at Harley worked there, right? And my job was to, as this little Excel intern, was to update this dealer ordering tool, which was used by like the 600 plus Harley Davidson dealers across the world to plan their merchandise assortment for their stores. So everything from their hats to their shirts to the leather jackets to the assless chaps. I had created an Excel model with like 50 different categories, and there was code to scrape it and load it into the database, right? Um, and so that was an opportunity where I had a gargantuan business problem in front of me, and I had to just buckle down and get through it with technical skill, like Excel, data modeling code, or VBA code, stuff like that. And then fast forward to when I was 26, a prominent animal specialty animal retailer in the country hired me as the first employee of a new vet hospital venture, right? So they aimed to create $1.5 billion business in a portfolio of 500 hospitals, and I was just sitting there like, I'm like an idiot, right? Like, when's Fish Tour coming, right? So like, you know, but like at the same time, I'm like, oh hell yeah, I can do this, right? So day one, I create like data model and supported operations with analytics and financial planning and really like the vet club that we created. Being employee one, you get to kind of be responsible for the culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, I'm not a square. I like to have a little fun. And so like I would interview people and I'd ask them random ass interview questions. Like I got a whiff. This dude was playing a video game, or like he's a gamer, right? I go, so what video game you playing? Turns out he plays the same freaking video game as me. I go, you're hired, right? I don't even care what you can do, right? So like, it's fun to be around those people who care more about you as a person and what you're interested in. Because like, dude, if you're in the door, you're good at what you do, right? If you're not good, you get fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, not and so like the vet club and like building that culture, I'm like super 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 proud of it, because not only did this like corporation achieve their goals, like they took the company public, this business bet paid off, um but I proved to myself that I was worthy of the boardroom, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
sitting there in the boardroom, with the CFOs and the see who cares, and going toe to toe with titans in the industry, like Oxford educated dudes, and being like, no, it's this way, right? And so that's kind of where you start getting like these professional chops, being like, that is a place I could do well, right? And leaning on both of those experiences, right, is directly how I created the pigs merchandise model, right? You take the format and layout of a assortment planning that I did at a professional general merchandise division, right, and you combine that with the operational analytics and planning and reporting I did for this other thing, and you mash them together, and I got this really cool spreadsheet that the Higgs used, and it was really really cool, pretty graphs, cool data, you know, all the stuff, right? And that was kind of the inception of what my new gold shiny gold star is like the artist data model, right? Being creating the central brain of the artist brand, and that's kind of my next big thing that I've been working on. So not only like did I learn the technical skills from the corporations, but being good at something and having confidence to like kind of swing it around a little bit for people, like put yourself out there, like do it. um it like felt good to do that in the boardroom, and it feels better to do it for the homies. It feels way better.
Well, yeah, I feel like, I mean, what a great sentiment. I think we don't really know sometimes like what we're capable of, and I don't know, we're very corporate culture here, but and there's it seems I don't know, I'm 33, so grew up, having go to college, get a job, always thought, but I never felt like I fit into any like corporate models, I feel I'm too a little too like happy go lucky, go with the flow kind of like personality, kind of like doesn't mind talking about my personal stuff, like, or what I do for fun. Um, but yeah, it definitely makes a huge difference when you just step out of your comfort zone, you say screw it, and you just take a big bite out of whatever project. If anything, you're gonna learn a ton, and even more so, you really just show people what you got. So that's really cool that you were able to do that with the vet company and really, like I said, mash things together for helping out the homies, because that's what it's all about here, That's what we love to
Right,
do. That's what the
right.
podcast is all about. That's what I will love about our friendship. You've always been a very strong supporter. I wanted to include that in your intro as well, but man, I don't think I've ever had a friend as gung ho supportive as you, and always just throwing out good ideas and always helping shape them. So definitely always appreciate your insight on things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean, it's reciprocated, and from early days, Zach. I've known you got the eye, right, and now seeing you do this, like you got the voice too. Move over, Howard Stern, you're killing it, right? You're killing it.
Yeah, thank you. What a and it's been a fun project, man. Honestly, it's no matter if one person listens to it or a handful of people listen to it, like I've gotten some pretty fun feedback. It's good for me. Like I love just catching up with my friends and learning more about them, and finding out how they got to places, and just kind of like rehashing stories, and kind of like just talking about how we became friends, how we got to where we are, because a lot of little things just end up coming up in conversation. So it's always kind of fun to revisit those memories. You kind of alluded to it like in the later part of your last answer, but what is like something as I know you've been kind of helping artists kind of just like manage their brand and stuff recently, almost kind of like, yeah, just artist managing. What is one of the most important things that an artist can do for their brand in the current landscape of music, do you think?
I mean, let's expand it past music, because one of
Yeah.
the cool things about being, back home in Milwaukee and like kind of being around here is, I think in San Diego, you saw a lot of people be like, I want to be a house DJ or a DJ, right? Mostly house DJs. And that's cool. It was cool to see it grow, right? And now I find myself, there's a lot of people like, I want to be a flow artist, I want to be a photographer, I want to be an artist. And I think the diversification of talent is something that's happening I didn't even anticipate, and that to me is really, really cool.
Hmm.
I would say the first piece of advice in the current landscape, I it's not even my advice, it's my buddy Seven's. He says unapologetically go for it, right? So my buddy Seven, a pretty well known street artist in Milwaukee, Finna Studios on Instagram, was really the first one who kind of looked me in the eyes and said, dude, he was at my event, right? And we went out for coffee after my first event in Milwaukee. And he goes, dude, that was sweet. You're an artist. You should go for it. And burn every boat that keeps you from achieving your goals as an artist. So when we had coffee, like after that, I kind of gave myself 75 days, right? June 1st to become an artist. And that was 23 days ago. Since then, cashed out a portion of my 401k, bought a van, built a mobile art studio, went to Resonate Swanee in Swanee, down where Halloween is, and put Glow Up on the map. And now I'm on my way to Oregon, because I've never met, like, Cromulon is one of my artists.
Hmm.
I've met him virtually. I've never met this guy,
Yeah.
right? So I've built myself a little mobile productivity studio. I'm going to park it, and I'm going to do the same thing for Cromulon that I just did for Glow Up. Like, just put him on the map, give him the platform. And I know it. I know, like, gosh, I know it's going to happen, right? So you just got to build it,
Yeah,
right?
they build it and they will come. But it's so true, like intuition in music, especially with people that like yourself who have seen so many shows, are involved in, many different like subsets of the genres and different scenes. Yeah, I mean it was when Cromulon wanted to do the first episode, when you linked us together and I listened to his music, when you hear stuff that good and you see that there's, like however many Spotify followers they have and it doesn't link up to like how sick their music is, you kind of just feel you're like, oh man, like yeah, you got to just get after it. You got to
Let's
get
go.
so man, and even from this small little window screen that I can see, it looks like the van is shaping up quite nicely here. Definitely a
Oh
vibe.
yeah, we could do like a 6 Degrees podcast shorts, and I'll do like a whole cribs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll have to get you a GoPro or like a little 360 camera so that you could just take us around and give us the full tour.
Sure, for sure. I'll take the footage and I'll send it to you so you can post it.
Um, but yeah, kind of as far as just jumping like headfirst in, like Seven had mentioned, I think.
Oh! I had one more piece of advice. That was kind of like
Yeah.
left, unapologetically go for it is like left brain, right?
Mhm.
That would be like what a space traveler would do. Like what Charles Daleiden would do would be diversify your revenue streams, right? In the
Mhm.
early stages of Space Traveler, when we were still getting all stimulus checks and everything from the government, I
Mhm.
was kind of challenging artists to, hey, take that $600, take that $1,200, and put it into your brand, right? Start a merchandise line, get some art, make some art, put it on a shirt, right? Like you are your brand, like advertise it, right? And I saw, the Higgs had like $450 in the bank when we started, right? And through intention and planning and execution, right, you grew that into the point where they were on tour and their van broke down. Instead of like being pants down in the desert, like they can go to the merch account and make like a sizable, payment to fix their van so they can keep killing it on tour,
Mhm.
right? So it's not necessarily it's like things like that. I think Cromulon is really onto something cool where he's doing NFTs and like a bunch of Web3 stuff. And I know there was some hype and some waves, but like that's still a thing, right? And I encourage a lot of people to just think outside the box about how you are, like who you are authentically, and then match that with your brand, and then do something cool with it, right? And if it takes a little investment, go for it. And if it's something that you can't afford, then like call me and we can work on something.
Well, those are both really great pieces of advice, and honestly, kind of seems like that's kind of what you did with Space Travelers. Just kind of jumping right into it. How did Space Travelers kind of, because that's, is that the kind of like overarching brand for some of the other projects that you're working on? Like, how did Space Travelers come to fruition, and what is kind
Yeah.
of tailed off from that?
So I guess Space Traveler started in the pandemic, and it really started as Sprout Farms, actually, right? And I, some people baked sourdough during the pandemic. Some people, whatever, got good at crocheting. Like I grew copious amounts of weed. I had like 20 plants in my backyard, and that was really like the breeding and the creativity behind how you take care of a pot plant really was like, oh my gosh, I love this like other side of my brain in action, right? And sooner than later, I'm like doing art projects next to my plants and like just playing music with my plants, right? And ultimately, story not story happened, and obviously, I then got a better idea to be like, okay, let's do a bigger art project with friends, right? Seeing all the people come together and do that, it was cool. And Space Traveler still continued to be like very left brain exercise for me, right? It includes tie dyeing, it includes like sewing, like clothes, right? It includes like you know doing digital art, right? Doing AI loops, right? It's really me being so hardwired, finance, analytical, just being the most Virgo of Virgos. It's very hard for me to disassociate with that right brain way of thinking and like embrace that like left brain, like pure, more flowy creative side,
Hmm.
right? So Space Traveler was just like an exercise I did to do left brain stuff. And really it kind of grew into a whole bunch of stuff, right? And through that I like even tried being a DJ and like whatever. But really, what ultimately came out of it was Stash, right? And that's really what the project's called now, is Space Traveler Studio Holdings. And the whole goal there is, hey, we've learned that you're authentically dope on both sides. You can do dope shit on both sides. Let's try and do it together, right? Left brain and right brain, because like, I don't want to be pulled in either direction. I want to go straight up, right? So like, by pulling on both sides of the brain and doing something that engages both of them, I think, I don't know. I find it the most fulfilling work I've ever done. I could do this shit forever, right? And I love it. And I finally feel like it's kind of clicking, and it really took off in the last 4 months here. Between Cromulon, Glow Up, Finna. There's this guy in Milwaukee, Dak Dubois, who's killing it. Um, gosh, I forget this one. I should have wrote that in my notes. There's a bunch of really Pirates Punches in Milwaukee is another photographer. He's damn good. He's the one that took. If you go to the Space Traveler Facebook and see those photos of the Glow Up concerts,
Hmm.
he's the one that's taken those. And another lady, Lily, is really good too. People are coming together. It's back, right? It's back, and it's not
Yeah.
even like my doing. I wasn't even trying. I'm like late to the party this time, right? It's already happening, and I was purposely not tuned in because I missed it so much, the California thing, right? And really, over the last year, 2 years dormant, 1 year like really active, it's been the most fulfilling shit to bring it back and keep it going, and having a lot of success this time, right? I'm not just like doing it because I want to be the guy throwing the party, right?
Hmm.
I'm doing it because I want to see my friends on stage because they're the best concert in town, right? And it's dope. It's the dopest pivot, and I could be more happy with it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been so great to see it grow and continue wherever you end up. How do you kind of see Stash growing from here now that you've, seen or kind of mentioned that you've had like a good solid 4 months of feeling good about it? What do you think are like some of the next big plays for Stash?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mentioned that I built a mobile art studio and I'm going to park it in my artist driveway and put him on the map. Like he's already on the map. Cromulon just opened up for Pimps to Joy Time. He's clearly onto something,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just needs a little, just a little push.
Yep.
And this van's like Ram 2500. It's got a lot of push in it, right? So um, we're going for it, right?
We're gonna push with
And
every might we got.
and really, Space Traveler Studio Holdings, or Stash, was really incepted when my old roommate moved out and took the Space Traveler checkbook with him.
Mm.
Right. So right there, I began early iterations of the next spacey startup out of the Space Traveler incubator. And really, like, Stash in its purest form is art projects with friends. Right. I kind of say, I got this joke with Dak. I said, an art project a day keeps the man at bay. Right. And I'm just sitting over here, like, doing spreadsheets over here, but like art projects over here. Right. And like, it's a good balance. And Zach, I'm really grateful for you, and want you to know you were like, I look at you as like a founding member of this, because you were there when I was kind of talking about doing that thing with Anzio and Vanessa, and then you were actually there doing it, and then you created that amazing piece of content out of it, and that lives on, right? Beta Stash lives on because of your capture. And those Walnut House days were really, really, really awesome. And Spring 21, I'll forever have a special place in my heart because of that. All those talented people coming through, all the people looking to help organize. Mark, I couldn't have done that without Mark. I still have Mark Caron's name on the Stash Proton mail, right? So every time I'm sending an email, I have to delete Mark's name, because he was truly the one that set up the Stash email, right? And so, I like this year, I mentioned my buddy Jamie, who I've known for like 10 years, right? And from day one, he's been a really talented music producer, right? And still to this day, his music is my favorite. Like, it's the best music I've ever heard, right? It's probably not like dubstep, it's probably not house music, but like the vibe that it creates, that resonates within you, is just, it's unreal, right? I think it's just perfect sounds. And so between Jamie and I's Glow Up, where I'm doing, Glow Up in its short is Jamie's amazing music and me kind of going left brain, and I do lights and visuals, but like I'm trying to make like the visual and lights guy on stage, because the way that Jamie and I feed off of each other is intoxicating. And like I'm sitting there just grooving, doing lights and banging on my MIDI controllers, doing visuals, and I look at it like I'm just building the fort with my buddy, and we're just partying. And I don't care if people are watching. You can have 3 people at the show. I'm still having the most fun in the city, making the dopest shit in the city, right? Like, I know it without a doubt. I know it, and it's dope to do that, right? And spending the last 6 months in the home studio, I was inspired to like hop on this business owners train, right? And after having 7 and all Cromulon and Glow Up, they're all kind of being like, dude, you're doing it. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it so fucking hard, Zach. I'm going for it.
Well, that's what we like to hear. I mean,
what's the next big play? Was the question.
Yeah.
Well, I went to Circles Around the Sun, right? And I was at Fare Thee Well, and the interlude, the halftime music at Fare Thee Well was like the dopest set of, like, it was amazing. I was like, who is this set break music, right? Like, who is this? Well, it turns out, like, the guy who promoted the show was put together like a rock star, or he was like, hey, you guys should be like this like new rock star group and play the set break music, but no one's going to see you. It's just going to be pre-recorded. And like, it's really like dead inspired, kind of like hallucinating music, right? But I can't get enough of it, right? So fast forward one more year, I just like am at Lock-In Music Festival, right? And I'm like, me and my buddy Tom are like stumbling, like, I took like probably a 10 strip of acid that day, and I was just stumbling through the fucking woods. And like, I come across this tiny little Renegade stage in the way back of the forest. And I'm just sitting there watching the flow arts and just vibing. There's like a DJ going on over here. And I see this stage. I'm like, what's happening over there? Because everyone's over there. And this band comes out, and it Circles Around the Sun. And I didn't even know it was the same band that did the set break music, right? I had no idea who they were. And it rocked my world. Right. And then, fast forward a few more years, I think, it's like the best kept secret, Circles Around the Sun, because there was a time that they had played like 45 shows and I had seen like 7 of them. And I've never had that kind of like conversion rate for a band ever. And like, they're super special to me. They came to Milwaukee just it's this poster right here. 3/23. they came to Milwaukee, and you know, I just had this feeling, Zach, things are going so well that I'm like, why not? I'm shooting my shot like Kobe in the fourth, and he's down 10, right? And like, I just was the last one there. I waited in line so patiently with my poster, and Adam McDougall, he's like the keyboardist of the Black Crowes, like a rock legend. I walked right up to him and was like, hey man, like you've been like the soundtrack of my journey, and I couldn't thank you enough for what you're doing. Like the way that you've overcome adversity and you're still here as a band is incredible, right? And he was like, oh man, thanks, cool. And then I was just like, you know, my name is Charles Daleiden. You know, I'm GM of this thing called Stash. It's a secret stash of creatives coming together to manifest, you know, abundance for the creative economy, right? And you know, at its purest form, Stash creates artist bandwidth, right? And really, you know, what I'm here to do is try to generate bandwidth for the artist to do the dope stuff and let me do the stupid stuff, because I'm dope at stupid stuff, right? So like, I don't mind doing it if I can go and if it means you could go do doper stuff, right? So like, you know, from an artist perspective, I was like, you could gain, you know, passive revenue. Like, okay, you really lean into the merchandise brand. You set up an online store, you keep it fresh, you keep it funky, you kind of embrace some of what these street artists are doing, right? Right. What if you were like, you know, a really dedicated streetwear brand, but a DJ or a musical artist, like Seven. Seven is a dope artist, right? This is like fucking dope painting, right? He's so fucking talented. You guys should all go check out Finna Studios. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Some people call him Andy Warhol. I don't say that. Just some people do. Those same people are inviting him to Art Basel, though, so he's kind of a fucking big deal, right? And it's cool. It's cool to be around him. But his merch is dope. And like, if bands would just, this is like my, oh, I can't believe I'm saying this. I gotta say it now. This is like the best kept secret. If the artist, meaning the band, would approach their merch like a fucking canvas, it would change band merch forever. And it's not just the print. Like the art is always going to be cool, like should be cool, obviously, and the best tour shirts have cool art. But like the t-shirt, right? Like that is your canvas. That thing better be the best. Like, dude, spend a little dollars. I just spent 55 fucking dollars on a Laser Shark t-shirt. You know, people out there are going to buy it, right? So, you know, like, you know, they get passive revenue, circles around the sun. Sorry, I got it on a rabbit hole. I went up to Adam McDougall, pitched him, and you know, he fucking gave me his number. He's like, let's fucking do it. Right? I'm gonna go do the same thing to Sound Tribe. I'm gonna go do the same thing to Essential Productions. I'm not stopping. I'll probably want Pitch Fish, but everyone but Fish, I'm coming for. And you, Laser Shark.
You heard it here first, and you, Laser Shark. Well, dude, that is yeah, those are awesome big plays, and I just love how aligned things, like you said, you stop trying, but good things still happen. So I think it's like wherever your energy is, wherever your mindset is, of course you always got to be putting in the work, but I think like your vibe attracts your tribe, and it, you know, work will come down the pipeline, as long as you're kind of you know, for lack of a better term, and I believe in it, like you can manifest anything. So even if it, you know, fish seems like too big of a fish to swallow, trying to approach them, it's probably not. You never know.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Sound Tribe and make their shit better than Fish.
Hey, start there and then approach fish. But either way,
Yeah, to the moon, man. To the
yeah.
moon.
Well, shoot, man, that sounds that all sounds really great. Um, I've kind of got through, you know, all the questions that I had for at least this first part one, because I know that we could chat for a lot longer and just dive deeper into some of these aspects of your
Totally.
creative journey. But why don't we just save it for part two? I feel like there's been a
Well,
lot of,
before we
yeah,
end, before
yeah,
we end, if I may,
yeah. Go ahead, please.
um, you know, I like how we skipped around, and I thought it was really fluid. And you know, thank you so much for this opportunity, right? And my favorite question was actually, what did you want to do when you grew up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I like every 5-year-old, like I straight up wanted to be an astronaut, right? But I remember my parents, you know, come from a conservative Wisconsin family, telling me that it was way too dangerous. I should pick something a little more realistic. You know, at 14 years old, my first job was tapping kegs at the main stage of Summerfest, which is like an 11-day music festival.
Yeah.
Um, and Rat Dog, String Cheese, and Keller came to town. And I like at that day, I like knew this circus was the place for me. Right. Fast forward, a week to first week of college. UW Eau Claire represent. Lehman Brothers collapsed, right? The whole world was freaking the fuck out, and I had no idea what the fuck Lehman Brothers was. So I spent 4 years studying, figuring it out, and now I manage a holdings company for astronauts. So go do it.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really glad that I mean, I was looking there at one of my inspiration shows is Hot Ones, always asks really good questions, but also just like the Tosh podcast. I love when comedians kind of venture into the podcast realm, but he always asks his guests, do you believe in ghosts? And honestly, I think you have such an interesting journey. That's kind of why I wrote down the question, like, what did you want to be when you were younger? I think it's such a fun and interesting question. I'm glad you kind of wrapped it around here because it seems like you were always a space traveler, and it's really cool to see, the little space traveler Chuck kind of really like finding his himself in on this little blue marble,
Yeah.
just
No, it's cool, man.
chasing the
It's
dream,
cool.
and it's really inspirational. I hope when people listen to this, and I mean for myself included, like as an artist, you kind of go through these waves of feeling creative and feeling worth it, and it's really good to get to a place where things are really starting to get momentum, and when you finally come back to a place where you kind of envisioned yourself where you would be like as a kid, it really, I feel like, just makes everything come together in such a more fulfilling aspect.
Yeah. Hey, man, I really appreciate the time. I do have to jet. I got a hot date with Megan Hamilton. I'm
Hell yeah,
probably late
man.
for. But next stop, I'm going to go see Cromulon. I'm driving this thing to California, and we're going to do part 2 from the van. How about
Yeah,
that?
let's do it. And then I know we'll stay in contact in between now and then. But if you whenever you do end up in California, let me know. I'm right now currently in San Luis Obispo, finishing up my contract. But yeah, I'll be back in San Diego in June. I might bounce around a couple more times in between now and June, depending where the work takes me. Could be in the Bay Area, but if you do end up anywhere, on the West Coast, let me know. I'd love to come check
Yeah,
out
we'll
the
link.
band.
And
Well,
maybe I'll grab Cromulon on the way down, and we'll do part 2 for both of us all together.
that would be so
There you go.
sick.
You got to be careful what you manifest.
Yeah, it would be so great to have that be the first live podcast, honestly.
Yeah, right? Yo, check out this fucking tat I got. That's the Stash logo.
Oh,
It's
what you got?
fucking Mario with a stash. So
Space
everyone go
Traveler
follow
Mario?
Stash.
Yeah, that is fresh. That looks great. Let me see it again though. Let me
It
see.
just got fucking done. It's sore as shit still.
That is dope, dude. That is so awesome. Fresh,
So
fresh ink, man.
yeah, you got it tatted, so now it's real, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. Now
Nope.
you now you have to
Still,
take Stash to the moon.
yeah, it's still a poser though. Thank you, Zach, so much.
Hey, of course, dude. Yeah, this will be live on Monday. So yeah, just really appreciate your time. Can't wait to catch up some more, but really, really stoked on all that we hit today. And I know that people listening will enjoy hearing about your journey and just some of the stories between us. But yeah,
That was dope
enjoy
as fuck.
your date with Megan Hamilton. Tell her I say what's up.
I
Uh,
will.
I
I'll
don't
show her
know.
the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if she'll remember me. I did interview her at Lightning in a Bottle like 2 years
No
ago,
shit?
and we had a time together. We went to the Thunder stage, and
Dope.
my friend braided her hair. So,
Dope.
but no, she's super cool, and I really love her
Say
music. So
less.
that's really cool that you're able to connect with her. Anyway, yeah, have a good rest of your evening. Have a fun night out, and we'll catch up another time.
Cool. Love you, man. Take
Love
care.
you too. Later.
Bye.